Hey there, tech adventurers! Today we're diving back into the Stone Age of CPUs to perform a legendary upgrade. I'm talking about taking my old test PC from the classic Core2duo to the powerhouse, well, sort of, Phenom II. Get ready for a journey filled with questionable cable management, thermal paste mishaps, and probably a few "oh no, I didn't back that up" moments. So buckle up and grab your flux capacitors, because we're about to give this PC a prehistoric power boost. Let's make this old relic shine, or smoke, like it's 2009 all over again.
Yeah, that intro was written by ChatGPT.
It's the Anarchy with me on the exciting guy!
So this is my current test PC, usually sitting under my desk. It's equipped with a Core2duo CPU clocked at 3 GHz and has a whopping 4 GB of DDR2 RAM. Not exactly the youngest and or fastest system in the world, but it served me well for testing purposes. Recently, however, I was given this motherboard with an AMD Phenom II CPU installed. Still not exactly young, e-waste according to some, but it's a nice upgrade for my testing rig. Highlights for me are USB 3.0 as opposed to 2.0 on the current one, double the SATA throughput, and a bump from DDR2 to DDR3 with double the amount of RAM slots. Just one issue, it requires an 8-pin EPS power connector, and having mostly old crap around, none of the power supplies I had laying around had one. So I went looking for a new power supply until I found a listing for this Cooler Master Elite 431 case, which included this Corsair GS500 power supply. It also included this mainboard with some capacitors that are starting to grow a beer belly, a 3 GHz Core2 quad CPU, and 4 GB of DDR2 RAM. I haven't tested it yet, but I expect it to have some issues. I took it outside for a clean, mostly off camera because I forgot to take it with me and my phone ran out of juice. When I pulled the heatsink from the CPU, there was only a bit of crusty stuff on the heatsink itself, so I cleaned that out and applied some fresh new toothpaste. By the way, no, it's not your screen, the ghosting effect is my fault. I guess I'm still not good at filming stuff yet. Next I pushed the old I/O shield out and checked if the standoffs in the case were in the right spots for my new motherboard. They weren't, so I had to move a few and add a few, since this board is a lot bigger than the previous one that has been in this case. You really want to make sure there's a standoff under each hole, because you can break your motherboard if you push on it while installing stuff if there's nothing underneath. You also don't want standoffs where there's no hole, since you might short out your motherboard. I've seen that happen on multiple occasions. When adding the standoffs, I noticed I won't be able to reach the top ones because of the case fence. I'll deal with that later. Right, let's put the I/O shield in place and see if we can get the motherboard in. Add the screws I can reach. Right, time to remove those case fans that are in my way so I can add the last 3 screws. Cool. Put the power supply back in and see if the thing posts before going any further. Oh yeah! Time to get the front panel stuff connected, so I don't have to use a screwdriver to turn it on. I'll also add this tiny speaker, since this case doesn't have one. Testing. No power LED. Maybe I switched positive and negative on that one. Check. I'll just reinstall the optical drive and the card reader that were in this case before I started cleaning. I don't really care for this old card reader, but I don't have anything else to fill this hole. Maybe I'll add a drive bay for the SSD at some point. I did consider to add a floppy drive, but sadly this motherboard doesn't have a floppy drive connector. If someone has an LS120 super disk drive lying around, give! I'll just add my SSD on the side, because I tend to take it out to plug it into other systems quite often. Let's see if it works. It lives! Still using onboard graphics though, which aren't to write home about. So I'll insert the GTX 1050 Ti, which I've used quite a few times on this channel and usually sits in my test system. I need to break out a few backplates. I wonder why Cooler Master went with this horribly cheap solution. It freaking stretches the motherboard. I guess I'll take the rest out when I'm ready for the next upgrade. This is just... Alright, let's boot it up again. Yeah, still works! So, apart from having USB 3.0 ports and the ability to use a bit more memory, was it worth it? Let's see if it boots any faster. Especially the higher SATA throughput should help a bit here, I guess. "5 seconds faster, cool!" In 1 million fatal guns, we see that the old setup already got to around 60 FPS, but it drops way down quite often. The new setup also does 60 FPS. Well, at least it doesn't drop much. There's no cap configured, but maybe Steam caps it at 60? I don't know. How about power draw? Does that make any difference? The old setup with a 3 GHz Core2duo CPU and 4 GB of DDR2 memory used around 55 watts idle running Linux. The new setup with a Phenom II CPU and 16 GB of DDR3 memory idled around 52 watts, also running Linux. Struggling to run Doom 2016, the old setup used a bit over 90 watts. And the new setup used a whopping 175 watts, though that one actually managed to run the game. This huge difference can't be just the GPU usage, especially since this card only draws power from the PCIe slot. So I tried a CPU stress test. On the 3 GHz Core2duo, power draw got to around 88 watts. On the Phenom II, however, this went up to around 140 watts. So the extra performance does come with higher power draw when actually used. When I wanted to close it all up, I found another issue with this case. There's not enough room to put the top fans back. So if you're looking for a case, maybe skip this Cooler Master Elite 431 if you feel you're going to need them. That's all I have for you today. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please consider subscribing for more. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time.